This video is about the 6 parts of who you are. Back in my video, What is Spirituality?, I mentioned that there are 6 parts that make you up. And this video is about diving into those different aspects of you. But first, let me just reintroduce myself. I'm Rob Durlich. I grew up super ultra conservative Christian fundamental, and then I wasn't. These videos are about my journey into discovering a simple spirituality. So thank you for listening and thank you for watching. I have more information at robdurlich.com. Also, you can check out a more in-depth subjects on my podcast, Rob Durlich Unscripted. The 6 parts of who you are. When we connect to ourselves, which I feel is the first step of understanding a simple spirituality and becoming authentic in who we are when we leave religion and we leave these other belief systems behind, what do we connect to? The first place we have to connect to ourselves. Without that, everything is just an idea. It is a synthetic expression. It is a synthetic experience. So the 6 parts of who you are, it's simpler than you think. The first is our physical being. It is my body, my 5 senses that I experience the world. I can touch it, I can taste it, feel it, etc. That is my physical body. It's what hurts when I fall and hit my head or break my arm. When I have emotionals, and we'll get into the emotional body in just a second, but I can feel physical angst in my body. My nervous system starts to fire because I can express my emotions through my body. This is the first place that we understand. It is the most grounded in what we call humanity, or in this human plane of existence, because as esoteric as parts of me are, this is the most real part of me as far as our human expression. It's the physical body. And so I think this one's easy to understand. I don't need to go too far into that. The next part, the second part, is our emotional body. And I think most people understand this too. We all experience emotions, and different belief systems and different idea systems treat the emotional body differently. Some ignore your emotions completely. Others, let's express those emotions. And I think this is one of the more complicated parts of who we are. And this is what, drives mental health and therapy and other mental health practices. It's understanding how to regulate our emotional body. And this one's crucial because it's how we experience the world. I'm not just a robot. If I didn't have an emotional body, I would be just a robotic flesh thing. But with my emotions, there's dimensions to the world that I'm experiencing, dimensions to myself, dimensions to other people that I'm experiencing. I'm in partnership with another person. They have different emotions than I do, and we have to work through those emotions in order to have a successful relationship or a successful friendship. Even when we have a boss or a coworker, we have to use our emotional body to navigate their emotional expression. So this is very, very important to us, but it's only one of 6 other aspects. So we have the physical body, we have the emotional body, then we have the mind. Now this is where you get into the masculine and feminine dynamics, or the debate, the difference between men and women. Women are more in their heart, in their emotional body. Men try to get into their head. Think through things logically. This is our mental processing center where we understand 2 plus 2. We understand that is light and that is dark. We understand reason, and we understand concepts, and we understand boundaries, and we can process the world very logically, right? Borders, rigid, constructs. And many people are very strong in their mind. They're doctors, they're lawyers. They know how to articulate, they know how to reason, they know how to parse information, and they use their mind to do it. A lot of people try to be more stoic. Some even shut down their emotions so they can be more rational in their thinking. And this is a debate and a struggle between the mind and the emotions, but it is another part of who we are. And sometimes we experience these different parts. Sometimes we're in our emotions, and sometimes we can separate out our emotions and think through something, what we call logically or rationally. Then there's a 4th part of us. This is our ego. This is the I. This is the perception through which everything flows. This is my identity. I am here and you are there. This is the The difference between dualism and oneism in spirituality is the fact that I see you, you see me. I have my own perception of reality. In order to have my own perception, I have to have what's called an ego. And some people call this the small self, the ego self. Some belief traditions and some philosophical traditions say kill the ego. Well, the ego is a part of you, so you're killing part of yourself. The question is trying to find harmony between all 6 parts. And that's the whole point of this discussion, and the whole point of understanding who you are is these 6 different parts working together. They all have a purpose, including your ego. Your ego is you. It's what gives you identity. Without ego, you have no identity. So ego is extremely important. It is valuable. It can also be inflated. Why? It overinflates itself. It thinks it's more important than something else or someone else. And it uses its free will to override other people's free wills, and it gets into that dynamic. Because it only sees the small thing in front of us, only sees self-preservation oftentimes, and that's valuable. Ego is also our horsepower. It's the will of who you are. This is what drives you. This is what gives you purpose, comes through your ego. You can have purpose, these divine purposes, the divine callings of who you are and who you're supposed to be. But it's not going to get accomplished unless ego is powering it, because it comes through through your own identity. And we don't need to sacrifice this part of who we are. It just needs to get into alignment, harmony with everything else. So celebrate who you are. You are a unique individual. There is nobody like you. And the reason there's nobody like you is because of your ego self. It's what drives things forward. It can drive you into making huge mistakes in life because, well, ego has to be right. Of course, it can take you down some paths that are not good for you or healthy for you, and they end up being chaotic. It also is what can take your purpose and your higher self, which we'll talk about in just a second, and make something out of it in this world, in this human realm of existence. It can dance between your state of your mind and your emotions. And it can help navigate all of that. Your ego is beautiful. Your ego is awesome, but it has to be in harmony. That was the 4th part of who we are. The 5th is our higher self. This is the portal of wisdom that is inside of us. This is this knowing that's deeper than our heart. And it's deeper and has more depth than the ego. It sees farther out, but oftentimes we don't know how to access that part of ourselves. And sometimes it's instantly there. We know we should go that direction or that versus that direction. A mother's intuition is a great example of this higher self. They know something's wrong with one of their children. And when they go to discover it, they can help. They can intervene. You've heard of, I made the decision from my gut. I don't logically understand it, but I feel that this is the right decision. And usually that wisdom will come up a little bit through your emotions. It uses your emotional body. See how it's all connected? The ego will connect to emotions. And so will the higher self. It will connect to your emotional body. It can also connect to your mind because it just overrides all the logic and goes, this is the right decision. Because it's coming from a deeper understanding of the universe, of reality, perceptions that you can't always just reason through. We all can connect to it, but we don't often always have a standing connection with our higher self or our higher wisdom. But all of us at some point have touched it. And part of our spiritual practice and spiritual journey is to go deeper into that part of ourselves. Taking our emotional body, taking our mind, and taking our ego with us. And this is part of how we connect deeper. And then the 6th part. And for many people, this is completely shut off, especially like to an atheist. No sense of belief whatsoever. So the spiritual part of who they are, the spirit part of us, the part that is the vibrational energy that's around us, the part of us that desires to connect with God, to have spiritual experiences, to have a spiritual understanding. That part of us is our spirit. It's the energy system that surrounds our body and is in our being that connects with eternity, connects with infinity, connects with the all. whatever term that is, because we really can't describe it. Putting all of that into the human language, we still limit it. That part of our being that vibrates, that just has that knowing of eternity, that guides us through things that we don't even sometimes understand. This part of us is our spirit, and it connects really strongly with our higher self. We feel sometimes we get that divine wisdom come through because we're connecting to those spiritual truths. We're connecting to that higher divine source, divine love, etc. This is the portal through which the divine comes through into our being and is part of our being. And that has a direct connection to our higher self and our higher wisdom. And that higher wisdom connects then into our emotional body and into our ego, guiding them into a better direction, and even into our minds to help us process the world in a bigger way. See, all these parts of us are harmonious, or can be harmonious with one another. And that is how we're made up. So when I talk about the first step of spirituality, it's connecting to yourself. It's connecting and bringing all parts of ourselves online. And once we start to do that, and it's never perfect, and it's not meant to be, but once we awaken to this idea of these different parts of us working within us, and if we're honest, we've all experienced these different aspects, sometimes even in conflict. But the more that we practice harmonizing them together and listening to them and appreciating that they all have a voice and a role to play, we will start to experience more authenticity in our lives, better connection with others, and a higher degree of spiritual freedom.